So this is our plucker, which is also broken. So somewhere in the last time we used it, I don't know when it happened, but this stopped working, this plug thing. It's GFI and all that fun mess. And so every time we turned our plucker on, this GFI would trip, and so you would pluck in like 2-second intervals. It was very, very annoying. And we finally ended up hand plucking our turkeys last year. So Brian contacted the manufacturer and they sent him this new plug, so he's just got to change the connected in here.
So Brian first started by taking the plug off the plucker. It's not necessarily super difficult, it's just a couple screws, but a couple of the screws were stripped, so he had a little trouble trying to get it all off. And then he had to loosen the interior screws that connect the electrical part to the buttons. And this is where the extreme stripping of the screws happened. So he had a little trouble with it, but he eventually got it off. The biggest problem that we ran into is that the original cable had connections that were U-shaped, and the new one they sent us had connections that were a circle, and the circle was not the right size to go on the screws. So here Brian is just cutting off the end of the new cable, and he's going to reconnect those red U-shaped ones in order to actually be able to fit them over the screw. Now, I don't know, they must have just sent us the wrong cable or something, or they've changed their design. I don't really know. But this was very annoying, but actually fairly straightforward of a fix. So the tools he's using here are just a wire cutter and wire stripper. He's just stripping the electrical back a little bit, so when he puts the wire into the new end, it can actually touch. And then he crimps it just to keep it on there. So now that he has the cable working again, he's just going to connect it back to the original plug just by adding those 3 new U-shaped connections into the plug, and then put it back on the plucker.